name's Aditi. Last weekend I finished my third song. I started making music this year. There's so much I learned with my third song that I didn't implement in my first two songs. When you hear some of these, you're gonna think it's crazy because it's like, how did you not do any of those in the first two songs? I just didn't, because my philosophy with the things I'm learning or things I learn overall is just baby steps. I would rather put things out into the world and not have it be perfect, but have it out there, than to perfect one thing for 5 years while I'm just practicing and not really implementing. My take with the first two songs was let's just get into the idea of how to make a song. A song is so many things, there's so many steps to it. What can I do that's enough to just get it out, which was already enough to begin with, right? My third song, Heart Ignored, will be out on August 27th. The first one, panning instruments. So this I did do slightly in the first two songs, but I did not really pay attention to it too much. There was such a big learning curve that I didn't pay too much attention to where I was panning different instruments. And to be honest, I don't even think I panned instruments properly in the third song. I Google imaged panning instruments. I looked up a very basic diagram of where hi-hats and snares should go. So if you're listening to my third song in your earphones, you're gonna see that I attempted to put different instruments in different areas. I kept the bass instruments in the center as most diagrams showed. But again, my goal, trying to improve a little bit with each song, that's all I did. I looked up a diagram of how instruments should be panned, and I used that for my third song. I did it a little bit in one of my two songs, the first two songs, but not that much. This one I was like, okay, let me just try a little bit. Still something I'm gonna improve with time, but I attempted to pan instruments with my third song. The second thing that I learned is folders and summing stacks. This was such a game changer. I don't know why I didn't even realize that something like this existed, but being able to put all my percussion instruments into a folder, putting all my vocals into a folder, and just like my synths, keys, all those things helped so much, because like once I get the sound right for a certain folder stack, like let's just say I like the way my piano sound together, then all I have to do is just play around with the main folder file, like the volume file, whatever. But I didn't have that the first two songs. So imagine me with 20 to 30 different files, individually just changing it. And it wasn't frustrating that was not frustrating at the time, because I didn't know any better. I didn't know there was something that existed that would stack things together. But let me tell you, it's one of the most exciting things to have discovered, like folder stacks and summing stacks. I like summing stacks more because folder stacks, it did a weird thing in the mixer that confused me that I'll figure out later, but I like summing stacks more. The third thing that I learned with my third song, which what I'm about to say is just gonna be crazy for people that produce professionally, is I actually looked up how to mix properly. Like, yes, I did it by ear in the first two songs. I kind of listened to how I want different sounds to be put together, but I didn't watch any video on mixing really, or any video on mastering. I just kind of went, like, I was just like, the drums sound okay here, the guitars sound here, let's just do that. I watched this mixing video and I know there's probably different methods to mixing. The 1 hour video that I watched on mixing was about how you kind of center around the kick, and then you do your drums, and then after that you do the bass, and then after that you do like the guitars and the pianos and the vocals, but it starts with the kick. And listening back to my first two songs, I don't really hear the kick that much. And I am someone that wants to dance with the beat, but how are you gonna dance with the beat if you can't hear it? So I really liked this method of the third thing is just mixing overall, like how to properly mix. And that's what I did with my third song. I learned how to properly mix, like a method. I'm more than sure that there's 10,000 different ways to mix. But the tutorial that I watched was a 1.5 hour video about mixing and how to he was kind of walking through how he did it. And I found that it was helpful for me. So I implemented that. And going off of that, the fourth thing that I learned, crazy that I didn't implement this the first two songs, headroom. Dude, like I didn't know what headroom was, bro. Okay, looking back now, I went to my first two song folders, and like the stereo output, there was no headroom. I didn't even know what headroom was. There was no headroom. There was no room for the head, okay? The head had no room. And the fourth thing I learned is what headroom is, and how mixing, you need that headroom to go into mastering, which is the fifth thing I learned, is just mastering overall. I learned how to use the mastering assistant. That's what I would say is the fifth thing I learned. I wouldn't want to depend on the mastering assistant, but being a beginner, the mastering assistant helped me. I used it as a tool rather than like the end all be all. And then I just added things on top that I would like for it to sound like, but I didn't use the mastering assistant as the end all be all. However, the fifth thing I learned was the mastering assistant. So mixing and mastering, I did learn a bit better with the third song, so I'm very proud of that. So I would say the third song sounds a little more clear than the first two songs, but like, hey, it's all work in progress. The sixth thing that I learned that I have not mastered at all, but would love to, is perceived versus actual loudness. I think this is fascinating. I didn't know about this before actually getting into music production. It always bothered me the first two songs when, you know, it's showing like in Logic Pro that the sounds are loud, but when I play it on fucking Spotify or on like my phone, it doesn't compare to actually professionally produced songs. Then I learned the difference between actual loudness and perceived loudness. Like, and this has so much to do with the way that different frequencies interact together. And if you have too much low end, possibly like that's kind of drowning out. It's just making the high end sound softer because there's just so much of that chunkiness, you know, it's like so chunky. And I've seen like videos where people actually do a before and after of just like shifting the low and the high, and there's just so many different reasons why perceived loudness could be the way that it is. And this is something that I'm still trying to learn and work on, because again, my goal is just for my songs to be better than the last. However, this was something, the sixth thing that I learned is the difference between perceived and actual loudness. Not that I've mastered it, it's just something that's very cool to have learned about. That's the sixth thing I learned with the third song. The seventh thing that I learned with the third song is the deesser for removing sibilant sounds. I don't even know if I'm saying some of these things right. The deesser is something that you can decrease the frequencies for S's and T's, things that are for sounds that are very poppy, very like crackly. And I know for sure this fucking bothers me, because like when I'm singing and I hear my S's and I hear my T's, I'm like, or like it pops, it crackles. That was bothering me. I figured out like through watching videos, like something called the deesser is gonna help lower that or make it a little more smoothed out. Again, people that professionally make music are gonna watch this video and be like, no, there's probably this better or this better. And honestly, love the feedback, but I'm just trying to learn bit by bit, and I appreciate all feedback. I just tried using a deesser. Let me tell you, my ears are still getting trained. So I did something with the vocals. I would still say my vocals sound better than the first two songs. And then it sounded so much better that like the S's and T's started bothering me. Like it was just too like scratchy. Didn't like that. So I used the deesser. What I think I did was lower the S's and T's. All I know is I now know that there's a plugin for kind of getting those S's and T's nice and rounded out. So that is the seventh thing I learned, is what a deesser is and does. Also probably going into the eighth is like a limiter. I knew what a limiter was in the first two songs. I just didn't use it or learn about it. I'm not saying in my third song I learned so much more about it, but I did implement it in a way that was probably better than the first two songs. The first two songs I was just kind of slapping things on, and I was like, all right, cool. Like literally it was like a cool, okay, cool. Like literally a kid at a playground or playing. Like, and honestly, me making songs is a kid in a playground playing. But now kind of just like refining what I know. What I see music production to be is like you're just getting more and more, you learn more and more. And so that's what I'm documenting with these videos. That's why I think this video is so cool for me to make, is I'm making these songs. I don't know music production, but I'm learning it. And these are the things that I'm learning. And most of these are probably wrong. But like first two songs, I've heard of a limiter. The third song, I learned a little bit more about what a limiter does. And then the fourth and fifth, I'll learn more and more. And the goal is by the 10th song, I'll hopefully be at least a basic to an intermediate at what a limiter is, and from different plugins, blah, blah, blah. So that's the eighth thing. Seventh thing, deesser. Eighth thing, limiter. The ninth thing that I did in the third song that I didn't do with the first two songs is use a reference track. This is something I also knew to do in the first two songs, but let me tell you, there was such a big learning curve in the first two songs. I didn't have time to learn about everything all at once. So I learned what I could, I did what I could, and then I just moved on. I knew to use a reference track, but again, that perceived versus actual loudness was bothering me so much that like, I couldn't at the time do anything about it, and I was like, this is what it is. I can sit here wondering for the next 3 years and learning, trying to get this sound up to par, or I could just move on to my third song. Is my approach right? No, but it is an approach. If you like my approach, please take it. If you don't, move on. But this is how I'm doing it. So I just think it's so cool to be learning and then documenting, and then you can visibly hear, hopefully, slight differences or improvements with each song. But yeah, that's the ninth thing is, the ninth thing is I used a reference track. The reference track that I used was a song by Lola Young called Conceited. I really like that song. It wasn't like similar to my third song, and I just couldn't find a song that was similar to my third song, but ideally you're supposed to use a reference track that you're going for in terms of loudness and the genre, whatnot. But I attempted to use a reference track. I still don't think I got it to where the reference track was because I have a bass line in my third song that's just like, it's just a sausage. Like there's no breaks. So that's also something I'm trying to improve. I want to make my bass lines a bit more dynamic than rather than just like one long note. But that's okay, man. We doing what we can over here, okay? Okay, so I think we're on number 8 or number 9. I don't know anymore. We're gonna just try to make it to 10. We're getting close. Oh my God, okay. I learned about buses finally. Like at first, like the first 2 songs, heard about buses and I was like, I'm not even gonna bother with that right now. That just seems like a little bit too much for me right now. Baby music producer Deets does not need to know what fucking buses are. But the third song, I started using it a little bit. And I think I kind of get it now. Like I get it a little more. Like these are things that I know for sure are gonna solidify with each song. But now by the third song, my concept of buses, it's making a lot more sense of how to use it to help me. Not enough where I trust myself to just plug and play. Like, oh, I'm gonna use a bus here, I'm gonna have a bus here, this is gonna attach here, and then these effects are gonna, like, no. But I do understand buses way more than I did in the first 2 songs. I didn't even use buses in the first 2 songs. I kind of use it in the third song. And that's from the one mixing video I watched that was an hour and a half long, which I will link in the video, but I might also forget. If you really care, let me know in the comments. I will link the video that I watched, the 1.5 hour long one for the mixing to help me just get a general idea of like basic mixing tips. You know what I mean? Okay, so buses. Super big, very exciting. Yeah, okay, so I can go over some of these other ones. I'm gonna title the video like 10 things I learned. Maybe I'll label it 14 things I learned. I don't know what number I'm at really right now. Another thing I have on this list is I used 3 different headphones for mastering because you're supposed to try it on different systems and whatnot. Bro, I don't know, man. I got a set of speakers. I got some shower speakers, I got my phone, I got the car, and then I switch it between that. But then I get to a point where it's frustrating because it's like, yeah, it sounds different on all the speakers, like a little bit different on all the speakers. But then I also introduced 3 headphones. I just borrowed one from my brother, and then I use like little cheap ear. You know, like I'm just doing what I can. Is it helping? I don't know. But for mastering, I used 2 extra speaker systems that I am usually familiar with. And it did seem different on 2 different headphones. One was a bit more bass heavy and one was a little more like treble heavy, I guess, like more high sounds heavy. So that kind of helped like just get to a point where I'm okay with the sound in both. Like, you know? Yeah, mastering's hard. Okay, cause like, yeah, okay. The next thing that I improved with the third song is my vocals. I'm not gonna lie here. I play guitar. I sing. I make music. I do feel a little self-conscious about my vocals sometimes because it's like, yes, I have been singing in the shower. Like I sing for fun. I can sing in karaoke, but it's not like something that I proudly just up and center say, I'm a singer. Like I like singing. I've always enjoyed it, but I do think that in my first 2 songs, I was trying to hide behind weird ass effects, weird ass vocal effects that was probably contributing to the song sounding more amateur than it should have been. The third song, I was like, fuck it, this is my voice. I'm not trying to be Adele, I'm not trying to be Celine Dion, like this is just my voice. And so this is how I sang. I did like 4 or 5 takes, comped it together, and this is what it is. Like, I can't be anyone but me. And like, okay, vocals could be better, but like, that's me, and that's also partly my perfectionist tendencies playing into it, being like, oh man, but you could have sang that a little lower, that could have been a little higher, why are you screaming at that point, or why are you, like, it's vocals. Vocals are hard, like, vocals are so you, that's why it's, you know, like, people say like, oh, why, I just don't like hearing myself talk over the phone, or I don't like hearing myself over a recording. That's kind of how it felt like for me the first 2 songs, so I put some filters on it that were kind of like telephony, like kind of just hit it a little bit. This third song, I was like, what makes the song different for me? One of the big things is the vocals. So I'm like, I'm not gonna hide weird ass effects, my vocals with weird ass effects. I'm gonna choose like effects that are very just like, here's some reverb, like, you know, just some very basic effects, whatnot. So that's another thing I improved with the third song. Hopefully you hear it. My vocals are just my voice. I mean, yes, there's echo and reverb, but it's not like a weird telephone. It's not like I'm whispering through a microphone, like Sunny Day, I think Sunny Day was kind of like that. I did want that effect with Sunny Day. Anyways, okay. That is the last thing I think I'm gonna say I learned with the song. So those are the things I learned with my third song. Very exciting. I do think I improved significantly with this third song. I don't expect I'm gonna improve this much with each song, but I wanted to make a video about this because like, you think you plateau, but I mean, you can't plateau after 2 songs. I've only been like doing this for like, what, like a couple, like since this year. I can't plateau that fast. So it's really exciting to see just progress like that, which I don't think progress is gonna be like that forever. It's gonna like go like that, but right now there's just so much to learn that this video is exciting to make. And I'm hoping at least with the next 3 to 4 songs, I learn a lot more than the previous song, and I hope that my songs improve a bit more than the last song. Again, my goal, just improve a little bit from the last song, learn a little bit more than the last song. I wanna say that this video is for anyone creative at all, writing, podcasts, wanting to make music, you know, in comedy, whatever it is that is creative or just something that you want to do and make. This is to show you how the learning process can be. You don't have to be a perfectionist and wait for everything to be perfect before you release or put out your piece of art or your comedy sketch or whatnot, or get a group together and put together like a business idea, okay? So that was the video for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Just about the learning and creativity process overall. I think it's fucking beautiful, okay? And I'm very glad I made this video because I think I'm gonna be so happy watching this back when I'm on song 5 or 6. If you have not liked and subscribed already, that would mean a lot to me. Leave a comment if you want to write something. I'll try to respond back. And I appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing week, and I love you. Mwah. Bye!